Today's lesson will be on historical values in the United States. First, a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. "It's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he should lift himself up by his own bootstraps. It is even worse to tell a man to lift himself by his own bootstraps when somebody is standing on the boot." The ability to develop a critical consciousness with which to analyze issues and situations is an important part of engaging in macro practice. One component of critical consciousness involves being able to situate a problem in the historical and contemporary context. Another component of critical analysis involves questioning the givens or common assumptions about reality that have led to and which perpetuate the status quo. Only then are we able to imagine new, more effective solutions to age-old problems. To that end, let us examine some of the values that have historically permeated U.S. culture. These values have informed and continue to inform social welfare programs, policies, and change efforts. Individualism is a theory maintaining the political and economic independence of the individual and stressing individual initiative, action, and interests. Individualism contends that people should be self-reliant and that the government has little to no responsibility to provide a social safety net. In fact, proponents of individualism argue that the existence of a social safety net will cause recipients of aid to become dependent upon the government. One policy that arose out of this value was the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996, or PROWORA for short. PROWORA was designed to end quote-unquote welfare dependency and made welfare assistance time-limited. It also included new strict eligibility requirements, such as work requirements. This policy resulted in a dramatic drop in welfare recipients, while poverty levels remained the same. The Protestant ethic, as described by Max Weber, a founding father of modern sociology, is a moral and spiritual outlook which served to enhance the self-discipline of the labor force in the lower and middle levels of the capitalist economic organization. In order for capitalism to function, labor needed to be viewed as an end in itself, rather than merely a means to meet basic material needs. The reason for this is that it is surprisingly difficult to increase workers' productivity otherwise, as humans will typically choose working less over increased wages. A fundamental shift was required from what Weber called economic traditionalism, which is the attainment of goods to meet personal needs, to modern capitalism, which is based on the systematic seeking of profit for profit's sake. Ideologies that happened to emerge from the Protestant Reformation served this purpose well. The first of these ideologies was the concept of the calling, which made the performance of job duties a prerequisite for acceptance in God's eyes. All callings were considered equal and necessary, which provided an ethical justification for the division of labor that is a prominent feature of industrialization. The second was the concept of predestination, a feature of Calvinism. Predestination contends that part of humanity is saved while the rest are damned, and that the afterlife of each individual is set and immune to their actions and behaviors in life. This caused understandable uneasiness for many Calvinists, as they were anxious to know whether or not they were one of the elect. The common prescription for these and other religious anxieties was, work hard in your calling, in order to prove one's faith and self-confidence. Being unwilling to work was considered a sign that one lacked God's grace, while material wealth was considered a sign of His blessing. Followers of this doctrine believed that material inequality was the result of divine providence, and unlike their Catholic predecessors, were not incentivized to do good works, such as provide for the poor in order to secure their eternal salvation. Another historical U.S. value is upward mobility. Compared to the feudalism of the past, in which the socio-economic class of one's birth was considered inescapable, the notion of upward mobility is quite revolutionary. America in particular has been known as the land of opportunity, and we love to tell rags to riches stories about men and women who started with nothing, but pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and made the American dream a reality. Upward mobility is intrinsically linked with meritocracy, which assumes a level playing field in which individuals, regardless of their inherited wealth and social class, are rewarded financially and politically for their initiative, hard work, and resourcefulness. In reality, as this chart by the Pew Charitable Trust demonstrates, the social stratum an American is born into plays a significant role in their economic future. Individuals born at the top or bottom of the social strata in particular are more likely to stay there. Individualism, the Protestant ethic, upward mobility, meritocracy, and similar historical values are not necessarily values that the majority of Americans consciously subscribe to today. However, their influence clearly continues to permeate everything from agency policies to political rhetoric to internalized stigma. For example, that gnawing feeling of anxiety you might feel when doing nothing in particular on a relaxing day off may be the Protestant ethic bubbling up. And individualism may be at least partially to blame for those funding cuts to your local social service agency. Ultimately, making values and their effects visible is a critical first step in macro practice. It allows us as social workers to promote new values, anticipate and respond to sources of resistance, and imagine new possibilities.